What's up, y'all? Got that new. Thank y'all for tuning in to today's video. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'll wait for a second while you do that. It's the red one right down there. It says subscribe on it. Go ahead and hit that for me. I'd like to get to 50 by the end of the month. You know, I don't think that's doing too much. You know, I think y'all can help me out with that. But yeah. Today's video, we're going to talk about 3 myths surrounding locks. There's a lot of information floating around the internet, a lot of information floating around YouTube about growing locks, maintaining locks, what are locks, and I thought that I would just touch on a few of the more common misconceptions that you'll hear from people outside of the lock community as well as inside of the lock community. Because like I said, the good thing about the internet, YouTube, is that you've got, you know, a wealth of information. But the bad thing about the internet and YouTube is that you've got a wealth of information. So it basically boils down to whether or not you trust the people that you're listening to. And I feel like the best sources for lock information are people who have locks, you know what I mean? And in a lot of cases, people whose locks mimic what it is that you're going for. I know for me, I initially started out with the finger coils, but I'm trying to maintain more of like a freeform aesthetic. So we've done, I just hit month 5 about 2 weeks ago, and we've done 2 retwists in 5 months. So for me, that's been sufficient. You know, initially I didn't really want to embrace the freeform, you know, form, but as my locks have started to lock and as things have started to take shape, largely as a result of one of the things that I'm going to talk about, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I say, I've got a decent amount of, I've got a lot of freeze, but at the same time, like you can see, you know, the separation in there and everything. I'll get a little bit closer, let y'all check it out. Like even when I shake it around, especially, you can really see, you know, a lot of the separation in there. But yeah, so like I said, so much information floating around. I just kind of wanted to talk about some of it and give my take on things. So myth number 1, locks are dirty. I don't even really know where that originated. Maybe some person was intimidated by people with locks, and you know how people do when they're intimidated, they just make things up, especially about us, you know what I mean? So maybe that's where it came from. I'm not really sure, but I think that concerning locks and their level of cleanliness, if it's a dirty person, then they're gonna have dirty locks. If they're a clean person, then they have clean locks. Simple as that. I mean, the myth around the ability to wash locks, I feel like sort of stemmed from the starter lock phase. And that is as a result of the fact that when you're in the starter lock phase for maybe the first month, maybe 2 months, it's probably not the most wise decision to wash your hair, simply because of the fact that you're waiting on your locks to start the lock process. You know what I mean? And if you wash it, then a lot of times you can wash it out. You know what I mean? You can wash out the twists, you can wash out the coils. So in those initial couple of months, for some people a lot sooner. For some people, their locks will lock in a week. You know what I mean? 2 weeks. It just, like I say, it varies and it depends on the person. So for some people, they're not able to wash their hair for a couple months, but for other people, they can wash their hair after a couple weeks. But that, I feel like, is something that only applies to, or primarily applies to, the starter lock phase. It's not anything after your hair has locked that's applicable anymore. because at the end of the day, you could always do a retwist if your hair is locked at the ends, and then you go to wash it and it gets all frizzy and some of the coils or some of the twists come out, then you can always do a retwist. But your hair is already locked, so you're still going to maintain that initial separation. So like I said, the idea that locks are dirty is, like I say, it's rooted in nothing, essentially, because that's simply not true. Myth number 2, you have to constantly retwist your hair. I think that comes from the notion that some people are more at ease, more at peace with more of a uniform aesthetic, more of a uniform appearance. They want to look more what they consider to be neat and kempt. And so they feel the need to constantly retwist their hair. Now, that can prove problematic because of the fact that the more you retwist your hair, the thinner you can cause it to be, especially at the roots, which can lead to problems of, breakage. Like your roots can actually get so thin because of constant retwisting that you can have entire lock sections just fall out, simply because of the fact that you've gotten it so tight and so thin that it's causing excess harm to your scalp. And there's times when it can, and that's an extreme. Like, it really is an extreme. Your hair is in all likelihood not gonna fall out unless you have other underlying issues, but it is possible. More than likely, like I said, you could just cause excess thinning at the roots, and you can have locks that are really, really thin at the roots, and then they get thicker. And I don't really know, as far as a problem, what that problem can be, but I've watched enough videos and I've talked to enough people to know that you can get a lot of thinning at the roots the more you retwist. So like I said, I feel like if your reasoning behind wanting locks is you're trying to embrace more of your hair's natural inclinations, and you're trying to be more in tune with who you know yourself to be naturally, then embrace the frizz. Like, embrace the natural aesthetic. I understand that some people are on jobs where you have to maintain more of a tidy appearance, but I feel like there's ways around that. Like, if your hair is a little bit frizzy, then throw on some glasses. You immediately look a little bit more professional. If you're a young lady, if your hair is frizzy, maybe you could tie it back in a way, if you've got enough length to tie it back. If you don't have enough length to tie it back, then maybe you could throw some temporary hair jewelry in there, or maybe you could go to West Indie Ray's channel, or some of the other young ladies' channel, and look up stylish lock hairdos for short locks. Like, there's any number of ways you can kind of circumvent having to constantly retwist your hair. Because like I said, I don't feel like it's a good thing in and of itself. I feel like it causes more harm than good. And I feel like there's something to be said for embracing the natural aesthetic. Like I say, don't run from who you are. Don't run from what your hair does naturally. That's okay. Like, a lot of us partially embrace the I don't want to say the movement, but partially embrace our natural identities, but we're still sort of tied to the Eurocentric idea of neatness. And I think that that's something that we have to slowly let go of, because it's like you say, it's rooted in things that don't really apply to us. You know what I mean? Like that's a video for another day. I don't want to go off onto a tangent, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with embracing what your hair does naturally. You don't have to constantly retwist it. It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then that brings me to myth number 3, and that being all locks have to look the same. And that may not necessarily be a myth. I feel like it's just an idea that some people have, whereby if your hair doesn't look like what they expect locks to look like, then they don't see you as having locks, or they see you as still in a part of the process where they're not fully developed, matured, anything like that. And I think we have to understand that not all locks are going to look the same. They're just not, because not all hair textures are the same. And so being that all hair textures aren't the same, it goes without saying that all locks aren't going to look the same. I mean, I think the idea that everybody's going to have these sort of blunt looking locks isn't true necessarily. I do think that your hair is going to lock on the ends, but I've got a lot of, especially the ones in the back, that are fully locked. Like this one right here is fully locked, like all the way up to the roots almost. Like this entire strand is locked. But if you look at the ends, I can even bring that in closer to y'all, it doesn't look like what you customarily think of. I hope y'all can see that. Yeah, I'm probably, my hand's probably in the way, but it doesn't look like what you customarily think of when you think of locks and when you think of them being fully matured. And maybe that's a testament to the fact that it's not fully matured, but it is fully locked. I can say that. And I've also learned that there's different types of locks. Like butterfly locks are a thing, and that's where you have a lock that isn't the same diameter all the way down. It kind of changes, and it'll look like kind of knotted in certain parts, and then it'll look a little straight and then knot again. It's just they look different. They have a different like I say, one of the people that I can think of, and I say her name a lot, but West Indy Ray, I think she's got more of like a butterfly lock pattern in terms of her hair. And I think a lot of it's due to her hair texture. They say not everyone's gonna have the straight hanging down, perfectly circular locks, and that's okay. There's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like whatever your hair does, embrace it and be okay with it. Like I said, you'll know when it's locked. Like, I feel like we have, again, and this is gonna go off on a tangent, but we have so much information and we listen to so many different sources and so many different people's opinions and ideas of what we feel like our hair is supposed to do. I feel like you're gonna learn along the way what your hair is supposed to do. It's one of those things where we want to avoid pitfalls if at all possible, and so we overindulge in information in order to avoid pitfalls. But what winds up happening is we shape our opinion of locks and even of our own locks around what other people think and around what other people's experiences are, and even sometimes around what other people say when they say it in a matter-of-fact way. And I feel like that's sort of detrimental to your experience, because you've got to understand that your hair is going to be different from his hair, is going to be different from her hair, is going to be different from her hair. And so not all experiences are going to be the same. And so there's value in what your hair is doing. And that's not saying just go about the entire thing without ever asking questions. But at the same time, don't obsess over having to ask questions. Just allow your hair to do what it does. You know what I mean? If you want to wash your hair once it's locked, then wash your hair. That's perfectly fine. And as a matter of fact, shampooing your hair actually encourages the lock process. Any of you young ladies who've gone natural know that I can specifically remember a time, because my wife went natural. I can remember a time where they were actively encouraging people not to use shampoo, but to use conditioner, because conditioner, they said, encouraged slippage, whereas shampoo encouraged tangling. And so if you can take that information and say, well, if shampoo encourages tangling and I want my hair to tangle, then it goes without saying that you want to shampoo your hair, because it's going to help it lock that much faster. It's common sense. But like I said, there's so much information out there that everything doesn't operate within the realm of common sense. Some things operate within the realm of, well, this is what I think I know, or this is what I believe. So I'm going to put information out there centered around what I believe, but I'm going to say it in a way that makes it sound as though it's matter of fact and applicable to everyone's situation, and that's not always the case. So what you've got to learn to do along this journey is take some stuff, leave some stuff. Even in things that I say, understand that what I'm saying is based on my experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to apply to yours. So, you know what I mean? Like I say, never take anything that I'm saying as gospel. If you like the appearance of my hair and you have questions around things that I do, I'm always open to answer questions. I mean, leave comments. Like I say, my Instagram is going to be right here. So I don't have any problem with you dropping me an instant or a DM. Like I say, I always say instant. They don't have instant messaging anymore. They got DMs. You know what I mean? But yeah, drop me a DM, because I'm always open to answering any questions that I can. Like I say, I'm still a relative newcomer to the lock game. I'm only 5 months in, but I've got some information that I can transfer over, and there are things that I've learned thus far, and things that I'm going to continue to learn. But I'm never going to claim to be a guru. I'm never going to claim to be a person who knows everything about the lock experience. I can only tell you what I know about my experience and how things have benefited me and how things have helped me. But it's funny, I was watching a channel, man, I can't remember, her channel name just slipped my tongue, but she's a lock guru. She's from the islands. I don't remember which island. And I know that everyone who's got a lock channel on YouTube has heard of her. Not the lockologist? I don't remember. It's something along those lines. But she was kind of laughing about the wealth of information that's out there, in terms of, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I laughed at her video because I agreed with her. It's just like, man, I feel like some of it comes from a lot of people who have gravitated toward the lock movement were originally a part of the natural hair movement. And one thing that I learned about the natural hair movement was that there was a ton of information. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of that stemmed from people who were trying to educate themselves on something that they never had the ability or the opportunity to be educated on. You know what I mean? Black hair is just something that has been there's been a stigma that has come along with black people's hair for so long that when the natural movement, particularly the natural movement in like the mid 2000s, started to really pick up steam, there was so much information out there, and there's so many different ideologies around the natural hair movement that a lot of that has trickled over into the lock movement. And like I said, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. So at the end of the day, whatever works for you. But like I say, don't believe the hype centered around any of the myths that I talked about today. Like I say, find out for yourself things that are applicable to you and things that will work for you in your situation. Utilize those things as much as you can, but at the end of the day, take everything with a grain of salt, because not everything is going to apply to everybody. But Thank y'all for tuning into the video. Definitely leave comments down below if you'd like to. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. So until next time, peace.